Hey, before anything else, can I ask you a quick favor? Your subscription is what keeps this channel alive. If you've ever felt something from this story or any of the others, or if this channel has ever made your day better, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. It helps me way more than you can imagine. Now, let's get into the story. Carol Martinez stared at the digital form on her screen, the cursor blinking like a slow heartbeat. Emergency contact required. It read, cold and clinical. She sighed, leaned back in her ergonomic chair, and rubbed her temples. It was nearly midnight. She was the only one left in the open concept office, and the building's air conditioning had finally given up trying to pretend it wasn't winter. She wore her hoodie tight around her and cursed softly as she reread the email from HR. New health insurance provider. Mandatory update. She clicked the box again. Emergency contact. Her mind went blank. Her parents were gone. Her sister lived in another country and hadn't answered a call in 8 months. Her last relationship had fizzled out over arguments about commitment and weekend hours. She worked too much. She slept too little. She had no one. Except, Carol turned toward the window, which offered a dark view of downtown Seattle streaked with rain. A memory surfaced, a low voice offering help with groceries when her arms were too full, a pale hand steadying hers at the mailbox when her key slipped, a brief smile beneath a curtain of jet black hair. Her neighbor, Alice Sterling, mysterious, oddly elegant, always appearing when Carol least expected or needed help. Always at night. You're always working late, Alice had once said, leaning casually against the hallway wall in her all-black coat, her voice like warm whiskey. What do they have you building in there? A secret government robot. Carol had laughed awkwardly, as she always did around Alice. Just apps. Shame, Alice had said. I'd prefer the robot. And she was gone again. Like mist. Carol tapped the keys. A half-second of hesitation. Then, Alice Sterling. Phone number, she had it, from the building's emergency contact list. Relationship to you, neighbor. She hit submit. She never thought it would matter. Not until her car spun on I-5 during a thunderstorm, water blinding her, tires screaming against asphalt, steel crunching like bone. She remembered nothing else. Just the taste of copper. Then nothing. Alice felt the sun before she saw it. It was noon, and her phone vibrated with a name she hadn't seen in anything but a building registry. Carol Martinez. She almost didn't answer. She never answered unknown numbers. But something itched under her skin. She answered anyway. Miss Sterling, said a clipped voice. This is Seattle General. You're listed as the emergency contact for Carol Martinez. She's been in an accident. She's stable, but unconscious. We need someone to— I'm coming, Alice said, already standing, already walking toward the chest at the end of her bed. The sunlight filtering through her blacked-out windows burned like needles against her skin. She hissed and shut the blinds tighter. With trembling hands, she dressed. Long gloves, thick scarf, heavy coat. A wide-brimmed hat and dark glasses. It would hurt, but she had to go. She had to. Carol woke to the sterile rhythm of hospital beeps. Her throat felt like sandpaper, and the back of her head throbbed like it had been split open and reassembled wrong. She blinked slowly. The room was dim. One light was on. And someone sat beside her bed. Alice. Carol rasped. The woman didn't move immediately. Then she turned, and even through the exhaustion on her face, Carol recognized her neighbor. You're awake, Alice said softly. That's good. Why are you? They called me, Alice said. I'm your emergency contact. Carol tried to laugh, but winced.
Right.
I forgot about that. I didn't. There was something different about her. Her voice sounded lower than usual, raspier. And she was pale. Paler than usual.
Her lips were dry.
Her hands, covered in gloves, trembled slightly. Are you okay? Carol asked. You look worse than me. I'm fine, Alice said. It's just the light. She turned her face slightly, and only then did Carol notice the red skin beneath the glasses. Burns. Not sunburn. Deeper.
Raw.
Jesus, Alice, I'll be fine. You, however, are not to be left alone. I don't want to go back to my place tonight, Carol whispered. Everything hurts. I can't even move my left arm. Then I'll stay, Alice said. If you don't mind. You can barely sit upright. I've survived worse. That sounded like a joke. But Carol couldn't laugh. I don't want to be alone. You won't be. They left the hospital the next evening. Carol's head was foggy with medication, and Alice looked like she'd been dragged through fire, her skin blistered despite her efforts to cover it. You should rest, Carol said once they got into her apartment. You're not okay. Neither are you, Alice said. And yet here we are. Carol settled on the couch while Alice took the armchair. You didn't have to come, Carol said softly. You could have said no. I couldn't. Why? Alice met her gaze, and for a moment, something in her eyes flickered. Something ancient and wounded. Because I know what it feels like, she said, to wake up alone. And Carol, already half asleep, whispered, You're a strange woman, Alice Sterling. And Alice whispered back, You have no idea. Carol didn't sleep well. Her body ached from the accident. Her ribs were tender, her neck stiff, and the bruise on her hip was a spreading, angry purple. But none of that was what kept her awake. It was Alice. Or rather, the strange silence that radiated from her. Carol lay on the couch, half covered by a throw blanket, her eyes adjusting to the low light of her apartment. She'd offered Alice her bed, but the woman had refused with a polite shake of her head and had chosen the old armchair by the window instead. The curtains were drawn tight, but Carol had noticed the way Alice kept shifting as if she could still feel sunlight burning beneath her skin. You can lie down, you know, Carol murmured. Alice didn't answer at first. I'm comfortable here. You look like you're about to pass out. I've had worse. You keep saying that. What does that even mean? Alice turned her face toward her, and even in the dim light, Carol saw it. The weariness etched beneath her perfect composure, the way her jaw tensed like she was holding something in. It means I'm not as fragile as I look. Right, Carol muttered, shifting slightly, wincing at the movement. Because burning in daylight is something most people bounce back from overnight. Alice's eyes flicked up. You noticed. You had actual blisters, Alice. Your skin was. She stopped herself, biting down on the rising anxiety. That wasn't normal. Neither is walking away from a flipped car with only a mild concussion, Alice said softly. You're healing faster than you should. But I assume you've already noticed that. Carol froze. How do you know that? Because I've seen it before. Seen what before? But Alice stood then, slow and deliberate, moving across the room like a shadow unfolding. I'll make tea. You didn't answer me. No, Alice said, glancing back with a faint smirk. I didn't. Carol watched her disappear into the kitchen, the faint clinking of a kettle grounding her in the moment. Something was wrong. Off. Not wrong like danger. At least, not exactly. But Alice had never quite fit into the boxes Carol tried to place people in. And now she was all sharp corners and soft smiles and secrets held too close to her chest. A vampire.
No.
That was absurd. Carol didn't believe in that kind of thing. Monsters. Supernatural rules. Creatures that lived in the dark. But then again, people didn't burn from light exposure unless something was deeply wrong. And people didn't talk the way Alice talked, like she'd lived more than one life. Alice returned with 2 mugs. She handed one to Carol, but didn't drink from hers. Carol raised an eyebrow. Don't like your own tea? It's not for me, Alice said simply, taking her place by the window again. Then why make it? Because it helps you sleep. You didn't answer the question. You ask a lot of questions for someone still on painkillers. I'm naturally curious. That's going to be a problem.
Why?
Because some questions have answers you won't like. Carol sipped the tea, her brain screaming with contradictions. She didn't understand this woman. And more than that, she wanted to, which was the real danger. So, Carol said after a moment, what do you actually do? You're always out at night, but you don't seem to work a normal job. I solve problems, Alice replied. For people who can't go through normal channels. That sounds shady. It is. Like crime? Like neutrality. Alice crossed her legs elegantly, her gloved fingers resting in her lap. There's an entire world beneath this one, Carol. A world of rules and politics and things that go bump in the night. Most people don't see it. You weren't supposed to see it either. And yet here we are. Yes, Alice said. Here we are. Carol frowned. You speak like I stumbled into something. You did. Then tell me. I can't. Why not? Because if I start, I won't be able to stop. And you'll look at me differently. How do you know that? Because everyone does. Her voice was quiet, heavy, wounded. Carol stood, crossing the room slowly despite the ache in her legs, and stopped a few feet from Alice. I don't scare that easily. You should. Their eyes met. Something hot passed between them, unspoken, undeniable, and terrifying. Carol knelt in front of her, ignoring the pain. Then stopped talking in riddles, and trust me. Alice looked at her for a long moment. Then, with a whisper, I don't know how. The tension cracked. Not with answers, but with vulnerability.
They didn't speak again that night.
But when Carol fell asleep on the couch, Alice stood watch, unmoving. And hours before dawn, someone knocked on the apartment door. 3 short raps. Then silence. Alice opened it, without hesitation. The man on the other side wore a trench coat soaked in rain, eyes too pale, smile too sharp. You've been out of circulation too long, Sterling, he said. There's talk. Questions. Blood being spilled. Your absence is making people brave. I'm handling it. You're playing house with a mortal. That's not handling it. Alice stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind her. Say what you came to say, Elias. The council wants a word.
Soon.
Or they'll come to you. He glanced at the door. You're not thinking of turning her, are you? Alice didn't answer. She looks fragile. She's not. You getting sentimental, Sterling? Careful. Elias chuckled. You used to be colder than all of us. Now look at you. Bleeding feelings in a mortal's living room. Get out. You should pick a side before someone picks it for you. He vanished into the stairwell. Alice stood there for a long time, unmoving. Behind her, Carol slept, unaware of the war building outside her walls, or the one blooming slowly inside Alice's heart. Carol's dreams were strange. Fragments of fire and whispers, of shadowed hallways and cold lips brushing her neck. She heard her own name said like a secret, over and over again, by a voice that sounded like Alice's, but lower, darker, edged with something almost mournful. When she woke, the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that had a weight. She sat up slowly on the couch, pain blooming in her ribs like a slow ache. The mug of tea from the night before was still on the table, untouched, and the first thing she noticed was that Alice wasn't in the chair. Alice, she called out softly. No response. She stood carefully, moving through the apartment. The bedroom door was ajar. She pushed it open gently. Alice lay on her side, fully clothed, beneath the blackout curtains Carol had installed for her earlier that morning. Her pale face was relaxed, peaceful in a way Carol hadn't seen before. Vulnerable. Human almost. Carol watched her for a moment, uncertain. Then Alice stirred, eyes opening suddenly, sharply, unnaturally fast. She didn't blink as she focused on Carol. You're awake, Alice said. So are you. I don't sleep. Not really. I just withdraw. That's not creepy at all, Carol muttered. Alice sat up slowly. You should be resting. So should you, Carol shot back. But I'm guessing that's not happening anytime soon, right? Alice said nothing, but the silence spoke volumes. He was at the door last night, wasn't he? Carol asked. The guy in the coat. I heard something. Alice sighed. You should have pretended you didn't. Too late. His name is Elias. His was a colleague. Colleague in what? Cryptic metaphors. I told you I solve problems. You said that like you were being poetic. Not like it was real. It's very real. Carol sat on the edge of the bed, Careful not to get too close.
Alice.
I'm not stupid. I know something's happening. You're not normal. None of this is normal. You have to tell me what's going on. Alice looked away. I can't protect you if you know everything. Then stop trying to protect me and let me in. You don't understand what I am. Then help me understand. Alice turned to face her then, and for the first time, she let the mask drop. Her pupils dilated unnaturally, her teeth lengthened. Not fangs exactly, but something that hinted at them. Her skin shimmered, just for a moment, like porcelain catching the moonlight. And her voice, when she spoke, was softer than Carol had ever heard it. I'm not human. Carol didn't move. Yeah, I figured. You should be afraid. Maybe, but I'm not. You should run. I already did that.
For most of my life.
Away from people. Away from risk. Away from anything that might hurt. But I'm not running now. So tell me the truth. Alice studied her, like she was evaluating something in Carol she hadn't dared to believe in. And then she whispered, I'm a vampire. The word landed without fanfare, but Carol still felt the weight of it. It didn't feel fake. Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. Didn't feel like some cosplay fantasy. It felt inevitable. Okay, Carol said slowly. That explains a lot, actually. That's all you're going to say? I mean, you don't sparkle. So, points for realism. Alice blinked, caught between amusement and exasperation. You're taking this better than I expected. Well, I am on a lot of prescription painkillers. So, if this is a hallucination, it's the most consistent one I've ever had. Alice leaned forward slightly, shadows shifting around her shoulders. You're not hallucinating. I know. Carol reached out then, slow, cautious, and touched Alice's hand. It was cold. Not the kind of cold that came from poor circulation, but something older. Still.
Dead.
But she didn't pull away. How old are you? 153.
Damn.
I was turned in 1870. I've lived through wars, pandemics, empires falling, but none of it prepared me for this. For me? For this situation.
For you.
Carol's throat tightened. So this world Elias mentioned. There are more of you?
Yes.
Vampires. Witches. Shifters. Things that defy categorization. Seattle has a delicate balance. I used to be one of the enforcers of that balance. Used to be. I left. I wanted out. Too much blood. Too many politics. And now, because of you, they want me back or dead. Carol pulled her hand away, just slightly. Because I was hurt. Because I left everything for a mortal. You didn't know they'd call me. But I stayed. That's what matters to them. That I stayed. So what happens now? They'll test me.
Push me.
Threaten you. Try to pull me back into their games. Or punish me if I refuse. Then you won't refuse. I already have. Alice. No, her voice cracked. You don't understand what you mean to me. You don't even know me. Don't I? Alice leaned closer. I've lived in that apartment across from you for 3 years. I've watched you hold your own hand when you cried in the hallway, thinking no one saw. I've seen you laugh at your own jokes while doing laundry at 2 a.m. I know how you hum when you concentrate. I know how you hate being called brave because you've always had to be. You didn't choose solitude. It chose you. And so did I. Carol's breath caught. Her chest ached with something far more dangerous than broken ribs. She reached up and touched Alice's cheek, thumb brushing along the edge of a faint, healing burn. Then let me choose you back. Before Alice could answer, glass shattered in the kitchen. A loud thud. A presence. Carol stood, heart racing. Alice was faster. She was in the hallway in seconds. Stay behind me, she said, her voice no longer soft. It was a weapon. A tall figure stood in the doorway, eyes glowing red, fangs already extended. Sterling, the intruder said. They told me you'd gone soft. I didn't believe them. Big mistake, Alice said coldly. And then she moved. The apartment exploded into violence. Carol ducked behind the couch, adrenaline overriding pain as furniture splintered, books flew from shelves, and shadows clashed in blinding speed. She saw blood, black, not red, splash across the walls. And then silence. Alice stood, panting, a jagged cut across her collarbone. The intruder was gone. Are you okay? Carol asked, rushing to her. I'm fine, Alice said. But that was just the beginning. What do you mean? Alice wiped blood from her jaw. The council isn't waiting anymore. They've sent the first warning. Carol stared at her. Then what do we do now? Alice turned to her, eyes still glowing faintly. Now, we fight. The apartment looked like a war zone. Shards of broken glass littered the kitchen floor. The bookshelf had collapsed in a violent arc of splintered wood, and a black smear of otherworldly blood streaked one wall like a shadow that refused to fade. Carol moved through the mess slowly, barefoot, her movements stiff but careful. She couldn't stop shaking, not from fear, exactly, but from the shock of it all. Just hours ago, she was coding quietly in her apartment, sipping lukewarm tea, and wondering if Alice liked her in that way that was maybe, possibly not just friendly. Now she was sweeping up vampire blood with a dustpan. Alice hadn't said much after the fight. She dragged the intruder's body, or what remained of it, into a heavy black tarp and disposed of it while Carol sat on the bathroom floor trying to breathe through the realization that her life as she knew it was officially over. Or, at least rewritten into a genre she'd never signed up for. When Alice returned, there was a new tension to her movements. Not panicked, not chaotic, but controlled rage. Like something inside her had snapped loose, and she was holding it in place with frayed strings. You're bleeding, Carol said softly, nodding to the tear in Alice's shirt where black blood had soaked through. It'll heal. Still, you should clean it. Alice glanced down at herself, then up at Carol. You're injured, recovering from a concussion, and you just watched a vampire get decapitated in your living room. And you're worried about me? Yeah, Carol said. That's kind of the point. Alice exhaled sharply and looked away. I don't know how to protect you anymore. I thought I could hide you from all this, but that's done now. They'll come again. Stronger. They want to pull me back in or punish me for walking away. And they'll use you to do it. Then don't leave me behind. That's not an option. Why not? Because I care about you, Carol. Too much. And it makes me reckless. The confession landed like a spark in a dry forest. Carol stepped closer, drawn to the exhaustion in Alice's voice, the tremble she tried so hard to hide beneath her usual calm. Then let me be something more than a weakness. Let me stand with you. You don't know what that means, Alice whispered. I do. I know that nothing about this is safe. I know that my life has gone completely sideways. But I also know that when I woke up in that hospital and saw you there, half dead from the sun, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. What? Like I wasn't alone anymore. The words cracked something in Alice's expression. She reached up, brushing a strand of hair from Carol's face, her fingertips ice-cold and lingering. You don't make sense, Alice said softly. You should be afraid. You should hate me. Maybe. But I don't. You're not just kind, she continued. You're stubborn.
Brave.
Infuriating. You make me feel things I haven't felt in a century, and I don't know if that makes me lucky or doomed. Carol smiled faintly. Probably both. For a moment, neither of them moved. The apartment was still, holding its breath with them. And then Alice leaned in. Not quickly, not hungrily, but with the hesitation of someone who had lived too long without permission to want. Their lips met in the quietest kind of kiss, tender, uncertain, but real. It didn't feel like fire. It felt like warmth blooming after a long, bitter winter. When they parted, Carol stayed close. So what now? She asked. Alice's voice was low. Now I patch up the wards around her apartment, feed, and contact the one person who might still owe me a favor.
Feed.
I'll use stored blood. I don't take from people anymore. Carol nodded slowly, though the reality of it still hit her like a second heartbeat. Is that why you're weaker?
Partially.
I was stronger once, more dangerous. And now I'm tired, but I'd still tear the world apart for you. Carol blinked, unsure if she imagined the intensity in Alice's eyes. But she didn't get to ask because a knock sounded at the door, 3 sharp raps, different from Elias's rhythm. Alice stiffened instantly. Stay behind me. Again? Always. She opened the door cautiously. On the other side stood a woman in a long navy coat, dark skin, high cheekbones, and eyes that glowed faintly silver in the hallway light. Sterling, the woman said. It's been a while. Maya. You owe me a blood debt. I'm calling it in. For her? Maya looked over Alice's shoulder, locking eyes with Carol. She's the mortal you broke for? Yes. Huh. Maya stepped inside. Interesting choice. Carol blinked. What does that mean? It means, Maya said, you're at the center of something now. And if we don't play this exactly right, it's going to get you killed. Or worse. Alice shut the door behind her. Then let's play it right. An hour later, Maya had drawn wards in chalk and ash across every window, every wall, every door. She'd muttered spells in a language Carol didn't know, and she'd bled on her own palms to seal them. This'll hold most of the low-level scavengers, she said, wiping her hands. But not the council enforcers. Not if they really want in. I need time, Alice said. Then buy it. But know this, your retirement is over. The second you brought her into your life, the game started again. Maya left without another word. The apartment pulsed with a strange energy now, wards humming like low static. Carol sat on the couch, watching Alice as she stood near the window, face unreadable. Do you regret it? Carol asked. Letting me in? No, Alice said. But I regret not doing it sooner. Do you really think we can fight them? I think we have to. Then teach me, Carol said. Show me how to survive in this world. Alice turned to her. Are you sure? Yes. Then tomorrow we train. Because if they come again, we won't run. Not this time. Carol nodded. Then I'm all in. And for the first time, Alice believed her. The morning after Maya's visit didn't feel like morning at all. The apartment remained cloaked in a faint glow of protection magic. The windows still darkened, the light dimmed by layers of shielding spells. But even with the hum of the wards and the weight of what was coming, Carol felt something else entirely as she stepped into the living room. Purpose. For the first time since the accident, since the reveal, since the attack, she wasn't just reacting. She was ready to do something. Alice stood barefoot on the hardwood floor, her coat off, her sleeves rolled up. Her black hair was tied back into a low knot, and her eyes were sharper than Carol had ever seen. You sure about this? Alice asked as Carol approached, still stiff from her healing ribs. No, Carol said honestly, but I'm sure I don't want to be helpless again. That earned her the smallest smile from Alice, barely a curve of the lips, but Carol had started to recognize how rare those moments were. Then we start now. Alice moved with a grace that defied logic. Every step was controlled, quiet. She handed Carol a small dagger, thin, silver-hilted, oddly warm in her palm. This is iron and silver. The blades laced with salt. That's a lot of ingredients. Everything has weaknesses, Alice said. Even the things you can't explain. Vampires react to silver. Witches hate iron. Salt disrupts hexes and illusions. You're not strong enough to outfight them, so you learn to outthink them. Sounds like programming, Carol murmured. Exactly. Alice gestured for her to hold the blade up. Your grip is wrong. Too tight. You'll lose mobility. Hold it like this. She stepped behind Carol, wrapping her arms around her waist to adjust the angle of Carol's hands. Carol froze, because despite the coolness of Alice's skin, her presence was scorching. Relax, Alice whispered against her ear. Let your weight sink into your legs. Your power's not in your arms. It's in how you move. Easy for you to say, Carol muttered, her pulse hammering in her neck. You've had a century of practice. 1.5. Show off. Alice smiled again, a little broader this time. You'll get better. You're already learning fast. Is that a compliment? Yes. A pause. And you smell like fear. Charming. But also courage. Alice stepped away slowly. You're a strange one, Carol Martinez. You're the vampire in my living room. Fair. They train for hours. Alice showed her how to block, how to duck, how to move her body as an extension of instinct. And though Carol was sore and clumsy and out of breath more often than not, something inside her felt alive. This was real. All of it. And she was in it. At noon, they paused. Carol collapsed onto the couch, sweaty and exhilarated. How the hell do you do this every night? Because I have to.
No.
You do it because you want to protect people. Alice didn't answer. She just poured her a glass of water and sat beside her in silence. After a long pause, Carol asked, Why did you leave the supernatural community? Alice was quiet for a long time. Then, finally, because I killed someone who didn't deserve to die. Carol's breath caught. Who?
A girl. Young. Brave. Human.
Like you. She was caught in it?
No. She chose to get involved.
Just like you're choosing now. Did you love her? I could have, Alice said softly. But I didn't let myself. Not until it was too late. You think I'll end up like her? I think if I lose you, Alice trailed off. I'm not sure what would be left of me. Carol reached over and took her hand. You won't lose me. Not if I can help it. They sat like that until the shadows in the room lengthened and a sudden chill cut through the warmth between them. A whisper skated down the hallway. Not a sound. A feeling. Something watching. Get behind me, Alice said instantly. Carol obeyed. The wards. Still active. But someone's testing them. A voice echoed through the apartment, though it came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Feminine. Cold. You've disappointed us, Alice. Counsel, Alice muttered. It's a projection. Don't speak. The voice continued. We extended mercy when you disappeared. We assumed you needed space. We let you vanish. But now, you've returned, with a human shield and a broken oath. Carol whispered. What do they want? They want to break me in front of you. The voice laughed, as if hearing them. You were once our blade. Now you've gone soft. We will make you remember what you are. Then silence. The wards pulsed, flared red, then calmed. What the hell is that? Carol asked. Alice's jaw was tight. They're letting us know they're coming. Not today, but soon. And when they do, they won't send one scout. Then we need help. I don't have many allies left. Then we make some. Alice turned to her. That's not how this world works. Maybe not, Carol said. But maybe it should be. That night, Carol fell asleep with her head resting against Alice's shoulder. And for once, Alice didn't move away. She let her stay, even after Carol drifted into dreams. Because she knew, without a doubt, that the storm was coming. But for the first time in decades, she didn't plan to face it alone. Carol woke to the sound of rain. Not the soft drizzle she'd grown used to in Seattle, but the kind that pounded against windows with purpose, as if the sky had decided the earth hadn't suffered enough. She sat up slowly, wincing at the tightness in her back and shoulders. Every muscle ached from the training, but the soreness wasn't unwelcome. It felt earned, like proof that she was becoming someone different. Someone stronger. The apartment was dim, lit only by the flicker of candles. The wards still hummed faintly in the walls, but the air inside was heavier than it had been the night before. Alice stood by the window, her silhouette motionless, her coat draped over her shoulders like armor. She hadn't said a word since the council's message. Carol rose and crossed the room slowly. You didn't sleep. I don't need to. But you're tense. I'm thinking. About them?
About you.
That surprised her. Me? What you're walking into. What you've already survived. And what it might cost. We already had this conversation, Carol said softly, stepping closer. I made my choice. You don't understand what they'll do to you if they catch you. You're not just a mortal anymore. You're my weakness, which makes you their weapon. Then let's make me your strength instead. Alice turned to her, and her expression, usually unreadable, carefully composed, was raw. You make me feel things I forgot how to survive. Then let me remind you. Carol reached up and touched Alice's face, fingertips tracing the curve of her jaw. Alice didn't flinch. Her eyes closed as she leaned into the touch, almost like it hurt. I'm not afraid of what you are, Carol whispered. Only of what we don't say. Then say it, Alice murmured. I want you, Carol said. Not just your protection. Not just your training. You. Alice inhaled sharply, her control visibly cracking. You don't know what that means. Then show me. The kiss that followed wasn't gentle. It was heat and tension and months, centuries, of restraint breaking like a dam. Alice's hands gripped Carol's waist, pulling her closer, while Carol's fingers threaded into the back of her hair, tugging gently, desperate to feel more, to get closer. They moved together through the apartment like magnets, the space between them collapsing as their mouths met again and again. Clothes were discarded in the trail toward the bedroom, the city's thunder drowned out by the sound of breathless gasps and the soft, low groans that passed between them. When Alice pushed Carol onto the bed, her hands trailing down her ribs with reverence, her eyes were dark, not just with hunger, but with something deeper. Something sacred. Tell me to stop, Alice said, hovering over her. If you're not ready, I've never been more ready. Alice kissed her like a vow, like she was memorizing every inch of her. Her lips moved along Carol's throat, her collarbone, her chest, taking her time, mapping her with devotion so intense it was almost worship. Carol arched beneath her, her body electric, her soul singing with something she didn't have words for. What they shared that night wasn't just physical. It was a claiming, a tethering of two people who had no business finding each other in this world, and did anyway. When it ended, they lay tangled in the sheets, skin on skin, breath slowly returning to something human. Alice held Carol tightly, one hand stroking the curve of her back, the other curled protectively around her hip. What happens now? Carol whispered. Now you're mine, Alice said. And that means they'll stop at nothing to break us. Let them try. Alice smiled into her neck. That's the most dangerous thing you've ever said. You've seen nothing yet. Later, as rain continued to pour, Carol sat up and pulled on one of Alice's shirts. She wandered into the kitchen, still dizzy with affection and afterglow, and paused when she noticed something under the door. An envelope. No name. Just a black wax seal in the shape of a crescent moon. Alice, she called. The vampire was already there. Her expression darkened the moment she saw it. Who's it from? Carol asked. A faction that should know where we are. Alice picked it up, examined it, then opened the seal with a claw she didn't bother hiding. Inside, a card. Empty except for a single line. She belongs to us now. Carol's stomach dropped. What does it mean? It means they're not just coming for me anymore. Alice looked up, eyes glowing with fury. They're coming for you. 2 hours later, the apartment was completely silent. Carol sat on the edge of the bed, her legs bouncing with nervous energy, while Alice paced across the room with a phone pressed to her ear. Maya, we need to move. No, not just protection. We need a sanctuary. Somewhere old. Somewhere they won't dare follow. A pause. I don't care about politics. I care about her. Find it. Tonight. Carol stood, moved to her. We don't have to run. We're not running, Alice said. We're repositioning. Smartly. This is war, Carol. I need you alive. And I need you not to go dark on me. I'm trying not to. Then don't push me away now. Not after everything. Alice looked at her for a long moment. Then she pulled her into a kiss, slow, lingering, protective. I'm not going anywhere without you. The knock on the door this time was soft. Familiar. Alice opened it. Maya stood there, soaked in rain, eyes hard. I have a place, she said. But you're not going to like it. I'm not asking for comfort.
Good.
Because you're going to the Sanctuary of Thorns. Alice paled. That place is cursed. Not anymore. That's what they want you to think. It's shielded. It's hidden. And it's your only option unless you want the girl gutted before the week's over. Carol stepped forward. Then we go. Alice looked at her, her expression unreadable. We leave at sunset. Fine. You'll have to carry me in a box. What? Daylight, Alice said. Remember?
Right.
I forgot. You're really bad at dating a vampire. Guess I'm still learning. That night, as Alice prepared her weapons and Maya reactivated ancient wards buried under paper-thin sigils, Carol sat quietly with her hands around a hot mug. She was terrified, but she wasn't alone. And that changed everything. They left just after sundown. Maya arrived with a black SUV, the windows so heavily tinted they seemed to drink the moonlight. In the back sat a long, narrow box lined with silk and reinforced with sigils Carol didn't recognize, but instantly felt crawling under her skin. It looked like a coffin. Alice didn't flinch. She simply stepped inside without ceremony and lay back, folding her arms across her chest like it was nothing new. It's warded on the inside, she told Carol. It'll hold off the daylight, but only for a few hours if we get stuck. We won't, Carol said. We can't. Then stay awake, Alice whispered, her voice already fading into stillness. Watch for shadows that don't belong. The lid clicked shut. Carol stood there for a long second, hand resting on the wood, before Maya gently tugged her away. We need to go, Maya said. The longer we stay in one place, the more it costs her. Carol climbed into the passenger seat, her heart pounding louder than the storm still rolling across Seattle's skyline. The road out of the city twisted through long stretches of forest, the lights behind them swallowed quickly by trees and fog. So, what is this place exactly? Carol asked as they drove. The Sanctuary of Thorns? A hidden enclave, Maya replied, eyes sharp on the road. Old. Built by witches who made a pact with something no one remembers anymore. It was sealed off for a century, too dangerous. But it's quiet now. Quiet enough to hide someone the council wants to erase. And you're sure it's safe? No, Carol exhaled. Awesome. But I'm sure they won't expect you to go there. Alice would never return to a place soaked in that kind of magic. That's what makes it perfect. Hours passed. Trees blurred. Rain fell harder. And through it all, Carol couldn't stop glancing at the box in the back, wondering what it felt like to lie in darkness and trust that someone else was steering your survival. When they arrived, the forest had thickened into something wild, untamed, ancient. The road became gravel, then dirt, then disappeared entirely. Maya parked in front of a wrought iron gate, half swallowed by ivy. Beyond it, a narrow path wound toward a structure hidden behind trees that looked like they'd grown not over decades, but lifetimes. We carry her in from here, Maya said. No wards until we're inside the threshold. Keep your voice low. The trees remember things. Is that a metaphor? No, they lifted the box together. It was heavier than Carol expected, as if the magic inside resisted movement. The wind howled through the branches above, and for a moment Carol swore she saw faces in the bark, mouths twisted in warning. But she kept walking. For Alice. The sanctuary rose from the earth like it had been carved directly from the land, stone walls covered in moss, stained glass windows depicting stars instead of saints, and a door etched with names in a language Carol didn't know but instinctively feared. Maya pressed her palm to the symbol at its center. It glowed red, then green. The door creaked open. Hurry. Inside was nothing like she expected.
The air was warm, dry.
The space smelled like herbs and smoke and something older, like time itself. Candlelight flickered along stone hallways, and far above them, a domed ceiling opened to the stars. They placed the box in a circular chamber carved with runes. Maya reached down, muttered something under her breath, and the lid unsealed with a hiss. Alice opened her eyes slowly. You got us here, she said, voice ragged. Of course we did, Carol said, offering her hand.
Come on.
Let's get you up. Alice took it. Her grip was weak, but her gaze was strong. You look like you've aged a year, she murmured. You try carrying your undead girlfriend through a haunted forest at 3 a.m. Girlfriend? Carol blinked, cheeks coloring. Was that presumptuous? Alice sat up, the shadows slipping off her skin like silk. No, she said softly. Just unexpected. And not unwelcome. Maya cleared her throat. We'll need to establish new boundaries. The sanctuary has its own magic. It might test you. Test us how? Carol asked. By showing you what you fear. Or what you want. Wonderful. It's alive, Alice said, standing slowly. It remembers pain. And love, Maya added. It was built by women who bled for both. We'll stay in the East Wing, Alice said, already moving as if she knew the place by heart. I want her close to the central wards. I'm right here, Carol muttered. You can stop speaking like I'm not in the room. Alice looked back at her, a half-smile tugging her lips. Noted. That night, they claimed a room surrounded by sigils, draped in silks and shadows. Alice was quiet as she changed into clean clothes, black, always black, and began cleaning and inspecting weapons that Carol didn't recognize. You've been here before, Carol said, sitting cross-legged on the bed. Once. What happened? I bled. Alice didn't elaborate. But later, when Carol curled beside her beneath a canopy of candlelight and strange runes, she whispered, If the sanctuary tests us, what do you think we'll see? You'll see a version of me I've spent a century burying. And you. I'll see what it would feel like to lose you. Carol leaned in, pressing her lips gently to Alice's cheek. You're not going to lose me. You don't know that. Then we fight harder. You're too stubborn for your own good. You're the one who fell for me. Not yet. Alice's voice dropped. But I'm falling. Outside, the wind screamed through the trees. Something stirred in the earth. And beneath it all, the sanctuary watched. Waiting. Carol felt at the moment she crossed the threshold of the main hall. The air shifted. Heavier. Thicker. It settled on her skin like mist and wrapped around her lungs like silk. She took a cautious step forward, heart pounding as the runes along the wall flared briefly with red light and then dimmed again, as if acknowledging her presence. The sanctuary was awake, and it was watching. Don't touch anything, Maya had warned before disappearing into the western wing to reactivate the outer shields. The sanctuary feeds off intention. If you touch something with a lie in your heart, it reacts. But Alice had gone silent ever since they entered the inner corridor. Her expression unreadable, her step slow, almost reverent, like she was walking through memories as much as space. Carol followed her closely, resisting the urge to reach for her hand. Something told her the moment demanded silence. This is where it happened, Alice said finally, stopping in front of a massive stone arch carved with a language Carol had never seen before but instinctively feared. What did? Where I lost her. The girl I told you about. The weight in Alice's voice was different now. Not just grief. Regret.
Shame.
I brought her here, thinking it was safe. The council found us anyway. She died protecting me. I never forgave myself for letting her step into this place. Carol moved closer. You think this place will take me too? I don't think. I fear. Alice looked at her then, eyes shining faintly. This place doesn't just test you. It reveals what's already inside. Carol's skin prickled. Then maybe that's exactly what we need. If we're going to survive this, we can't keep hiding from the things we carry. Alice studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. Then we begin tonight. They slept during the day. Or tried to. But the sanctuary didn't sleep. Carol dreamed of mirrors. Endless reflections of herself in shadowed halls, each version of her whispering different fears. She saw herself as prey, as predator, as abandoned, as betrayer. And in every dream, Alice stood just out of reach, watching, bleeding, fading. When she woke, her body was slick with sweat, her heartbeat erratic. Alice was already awake, perched on the windowsill like a statue carved from night, her eyes glowing faintly as the sun dipped below the trees. You felt it too, Carol whispered. It's only beginning, Alice replied. The sanctuary is learning you. It's not subtle. It never is. They trained again, but it was different now. The tension between them had shifted, become sharper, edged with something unspoken. Not distrust, but fear. Not of each other, of what the sanctuary might reveal. That night, the test came. Carol was the first to hear it, a faint music drifting through the corridor. A lullaby.
Spanish.
One her grandmother used to sing when Carol was 5, curled up on the couch during thunderstorms. She rose from bed without thinking, barefoot, wearing only Alice's shirt, and followed the sound into the hall. Carol, Alice's voice echoed behind her. Don't follow it. That's not real. But it felt real. The song tugged at something deep in her chest, something raw and fragile. She stepped through the door at the end of the hallway, and the world changed. She stood in her childhood home. The apartment smelled like arroz con leche and lemon cleaner. Her grandmother stood in the kitchen, back turned, humming that same lullaby. Abuela? The woman turned. Her face was soft, familiar, but wrong. The eyes were too dark, too knowing. You shouldn't have come here, the figure said in Spanish. You opened the door. This isn't real. Then why does it hurt? The woman's face twisted. The apartment cracked like glass. And suddenly Carol was alone, surrounded by hundreds of mirrors, each showing a version of herself screaming, bleeding, begging. A voice whispered, "You're not strong enough. You'll get her killed, just like you got everyone else killed." Stop. The mirrors shattered. Alice appeared at her side, breath ragged, eyes feral. You were gone too long. How did you find me? This place is tied to you. You screamed. I heard it. Carol fell into her arms, shaking. It showed me things.
Me. Weak.
Failing. Losing you. Then it's trying to break you. Is it working? Not if I can help it. Alice kissed her then, not softly. It was a claiming, a promise. I'm here. I won't let go. But the test wasn't over. That same night, it was Alice's turn. She collapsed to her knees in the central ward, eyes wide, skin glowing too brightly. Carol rushed to her, but Alice didn't respond. She was staring at something only she could see. Alice. Carol shook her. What do you see? Blood, Alice whispered. So much blood. It's her, the girl I failed. She's screaming. It's not real. She's asking me why I saved you, why I didn't save her. Because I'm not her, and she's not me. But what if I fail again? Carol grabbed Alice's face, forcing her to meet her eyes. You won't, because I'm not going to let you fall alone. We're not alone anymore. Alice trembled. I don't deserve you. Then earn me. And just like that, the vision broke. The air cleared. The runes dimmed. The test for now was over. They didn't sleep. Instead, they sat by candlelight in the heart of the sanctuary, wrapped in each other's arms, the weight of what they'd seen still clinging to their skin like ash. We passed, Carol whispered. Barely. But we did. Alice kissed the crown of her head. You saw yourself broken, and you didn't shatter. You saw guilt, and didn't run. We're stronger than we thought. We have to be. Then Maya appeared in the doorway.
They're coming, she said.
The council. In 2 days. That's soon, Carol asked. They tracked the seal. They know where you are. Alice stood, already bristling with cold fury. Then we prepare. For what? Maya asked. For war. That night, as they reinforced the sanctuary's magic and drew sigils that hadn't been seen in a century, Carol and Alice moved like a single force. No longer protector and protected. No longer vampire and mortal. But something in between. Partners. Equals.
More.
The sanctuary thrummed with tension. Even the walls seemed to hold their breath. Sigils glowed faintly on the floors. The runes along the archways pulsed in steady rhythm like a second heartbeat, and the scent of salt, iron, and burned herbs hung heavy in the air. Carol stood barefoot in the center of the ritual circle, eyes closed, feeling the pulse of ancient magic vibrate through her bones. She wasn't a witch. She wasn't a vampire. But the sanctuary had accepted her. It had tested her, stripped her bare, and let her stand again. Now it lent her its power, not because she commanded it, but because she had endured. "You're doing better than most who've trained for years," Maya said from the doorway, her voice low. "I'm improvising. That's usually how we survive." "Has it started?" Carol opened her eyes. "Not yet. But you'll feel it when it does." That night, Alice didn't sleep. She sat at the edge of the bed, sharpening her blades, every movement precise, silent. She donned dark armor laced with wards stitched in thread made of wolf hair and moonlight, gifted by witches she once saved and never visited again. She hadn't worn it in over a century. "You're tense," Carol said, walking up behind her. "I'm focused." "Same thing." Carol sat on the bed, close enough that their knees touched. "Talk to me." "There's nothing to say. They're coming. I have to kill them. Or they kill you. You don't have to do it alone." "I'm trying not to." Alice finally looked at her, eyes unreadable. "But if anything happens, nothing will happen. If anything does, nothing will happen." Carol cupped her face, forcing her to hold her gaze. "We've already faced everything they tried to throw at us.
Guilt, fear, doubt.
And we're still here." "You make me reckless," Alice whispered. "Good. I make you feel. That's the difference between surviving and living." Alice closed her eyes, leaned into the touch. "I'm not just afraid of losing you. I'm afraid of what I'll become if I do. Then don't lose me." They kissed, slow and deep, a kiss full of everything they hadn't said and everything they had no more time to explain. Then, without warning, the sigils near the windows flared red. Maya appeared in the doorway. "They're here." The forest exploded with motion. Shadows moved between trees like liquid. Figures cloaked in night, fangs bared, weapons drawn. The council hadn't sent diplomats. They'd sent assassins. Alice moved like a storm. She met the first wave at the gates, silent, brutal, efficient. Her blades sliced through darkness, her eyes glowing crimson in the night. She fought like someone who had nothing left to lose, and everything left to protect. Carol stood inside the inner circle, drawing a rune Maya had carved into her palm, her blood mixing with ash as she chanted the words taught to her only hours ago. She didn't know what she was invoking, but the sanctuary did. And it answered. A surge of power rippled outward, knocking back 3 intruders before they reached the door. "Nice trick," Maya muttered. "Teach me that one later." "Only if I survive." "You'd better." The battle blurred. Screams echoed. The sky crackled. A vampire lunged for Carol and was intercepted midair by Alice, who took the hit, slammed them into the stone floor, and drove a blade through their throat. "Don't touch her," she hissed, voice inhuman. Carol stared, awed, terrified, in love. "You okay?" Alice asked, panting. "I am now." But then the earth trembled. The sky above the sanctuary went black, not with clouds, but with shadow. Something ancient stepped into the clearing.
Tall, pale.
Eyes glowing like stars gone dead. "She sent him," Alice whispered.
"Who?"
Carol asked. "Lucian, the warden of the old blood." "That sounds bad." "Because it is." The figure moved forward. The vampires scattered. Even Maya cursed under her breath and stepped back. "Give her to me," Lucian said. His voice sounded like bone cracking under frost. "She's mortal. She has no place in our war."
"She's mine," Alice said.
"She made her choice. And that's the problem." He raised one hand. Carol screamed as something tore into her chest, not claws, not blades, just pressure.
Force.
Like her heart was being unraveled from inside. Alice lunged forward, but Lucian stopped her midair with a flick of his wrist. "I let you disappear once," he said. "But this is unforgivable. You brought her into our world. You made her matter." "She always mattered." Alice's voice cracked. "You were just too blind to see it." Lucian's hand closed into a fist. Carol dropped to her knees, eyes wide, gasping. Then the runes beneath her ignited. Not red, not white, gold. The sanctuary answered her scream with fury. Light exploded from the ground, pure, blinding. It launched Lucian back, cracked the walls, split the sky. Carol rose slowly, surrounded by light, her body glowing, her veins lit with energy that wasn't entirely human. Or mortal. What are you? Lucian asked, stunned. Carol blinked, her voice distant, layered. Something new. Then she collapsed. Alice caught her. The light faded. The forest went silent. Lucian vanished. The remaining council assassins fled. It was over.
For now.
Carol woke a day later. Her body ached. Her mind reeled. But she was alive. Alice sat beside her, eyes red-rimmed, holding her hand like a lifeline. You scared the hell out of me, she whispered. What happened? You called the sanctuary. It answered. You became its anchor. That magic, it chose you. Why? Because you chose us. Carol blinked. Did we win?
We survived.
And now they fear you.
Good.
Alice leaned down, pressing her forehead to Carol's. Don't ever scare me like that again. Can't promise that. Then just promise you'll stay. Always. They stayed like that for a long time. Just breathing. Just alive. Just together. But outside, the sanctuary pulsed again.
Slowly.
Quietly. Because something had changed. And Carol Martinez was no longer just a programmer. She was something more. The sanctuary was quiet in the way a battlefield is quiet after the last scream. The runes etched in its stone had faded from gold to a soft amber, flickering like candlelight. But beneath the surface, Carol could still feel the thrum of something alive. Awake. And watching. Her body was fragile, burned from the inside out by the raw magic that had surged through her during the fight, but her mind was sharp, clear. And her heart had never felt heavier. Or fuller. She sat on the edge of the bed wrapped in soft black linen, her legs drawn up, Alice crouched at her feet, wrapping fresh bandages around her wrist. You still look at me like I'm about to break in half, Carol murmured. You are glowing like a solar flare, Alice replied without lifting her gaze. Forgive me if I'm still traumatized. I'm not a bomb. You're not a bomb. I feel fine. You shouldn't. And yet, here I am. Alice tied the final knot, gentle but firm, then looked up at her. You're changing, Carol. That power wasn't just borrowed. The sanctuary chose you. And it doesn't do that lightly. So, what does that make me? A witch? A conduit? A threat, said Maya, entering the room, arms crossed, her expression unreadable.
To them.
To the council. They won't come again, Alice said firmly. They'll wait, regroup, whisper your name in dark rooms, and wonder what kind of mortal stands between them and their reign. We could leave, Carol offered quietly. Disappear. Start over somewhere else. We could, Alice agreed. But I'm tired of running. Then what? Carol asked. We go to them, Alice said. We end it. On our terms. Maya narrowed her eyes. You're suggesting walking into the lion's den alone? Not alone. Alice's voice was soft but unbreakable. Not anymore. They arrived at the council's neutral grounds 3 nights later, a circular amphitheater hidden deep within a forest of ash trees. The ground pulsed with ley lines. Old magic. Older than any vampire or witch who walked there now. There were 13 seats carved from black stone, curved like thrones. Only 7 were occupied. The others remained cold.
Dead.
As Carol and Alice stepped into the center, all eyes turned to them. Curious. Cautious. Hungry. Lucian stood at the far edge of the circle, his face still pale from the last encounter. He did not speak. Alice's voice rang out first. I'm invoking the rite of severance. A murmur spread across the gathered. One of the councilwomen, tall, silver-haired, with veins that glowed faintly blue, stood. You would sever yourself from our rule? Yes. And your progeny? Alice's gaze shifted to Carol, and for just a moment, the edges of her resolve softened. She is not my progeny, Alice said. She is my equal. Another ripple through the gathering. Lucian stepped forward. This is blasphemy. This is evolution, Carol said, stepping beside Alice, her voice even. Your world is crumbling because it refuses to grow. I didn't choose to be pulled into this, but now that I am, I won't be your pawn. You are mortal, Lucian hissed. You don't belong here. Neither do you, Alice snapped. You built your throne on the bones of people who didn't belong. And now you fear what happens when they rise. What do you propose? The silver-haired woman asked. A truce. A line, Alice replied. We leave. You leave us alone. You don't touch what's ours. You don't hunt near Seattle. And in return, we don't burn your precious counsel to the ground. Big words from someone who ran for a century. Alice's smile was razor-sharp. Then test me. A long silence followed. Then slowly, the woman raised one pale hand. Let them go. Lucian growled low in his throat. You can't be serious. You already lost, Lucian, she said coolly. You just haven't accepted it. Back in Seattle, the apartment felt different. The wards were quiet. The shadows were still. And for once, neither of them felt like something was hiding around the corner. Carol curled into the couch, barefoot, wearing one of Alice's black shirts again. Her hair was damp from the shower, her skin smelling faintly of lavender. Alice watched her from the kitchen, blood warming in a glass between her hands, but her eyes never strayed far. You still think I'm going to explode? Carol teased. No, Alice murmured. Now I think you're going to change the world. One vampire drama at a time. You really want this life? Alice asked. The danger? The isolation? Me? I didn't want any of it, Carol said softly. But I choose you. I choose this. Again and again. Alice moved toward her, slowly, like something sacred. She knelt in front of Carol, placed her hand on her thigh, and whispered, I love you. The silence after the words was thick. Honest. Fragile. Say it again, Carol breathed. I love you. Carol leaned down and kissed her. Softly. Fiercely. I love you too. A month later, the world didn't end. But it changed. Word spread. Of the human who glowed with sanctuary magic. Of the vampire who defied the council and survived. Of two women who, together, carved a new path in blood and gold. Carol Martinez wasn't just a developer anymore. She was something new. A myth. A message. A beginning. And Alice Sterling, who had lived a century in shadows, now walked beside her in the light.